Hello, and welcome to Sobercast, where we provide AA speaker meetings and workshops in podcast format. We're an ad-free podcast, and if you enjoy listening, please help us be self-supporting by visiting Sobercast.com, look for the donate link, and drop $1 or $2 into our virtual basket. We hope you enjoy the podcast. Have a great day.
This is a speaker meeting. Francesca will speak for 10 minutes, and then turn the meeting over to our main speaker, Colin, who will share his experience, strength, and hope. Now I'd like to introduce Francesca.
Hi, I'm Francesca. I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Francesca.
So I time myself?
I can let you know.
That'd be great.
It's 8:10. You got 10 minutes.
Thanks, Jen, for asking me to speak. So my sobriety date is July 25th, 2010. I've a little over 4 years. I was 24 years old when I got sober. I'm 28 now. I have a sponsor in New York who I speak to with a good deal of frequency, and I sponsor other women, and I've gone through the steps a few times, and I've been almost pretty much completed all my amends, although I should look at that. Maybe that's not true. I guess I don't really know. I don't really have anything particular I was thinking about, except I was trying to think of like an example of how my life is different today, and it's like a totally banal example, which is that I was gonna, at 7:30 I went, it was in my house, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna go to this meeting now, a little early, and I found the car keys weren't there, because I guess my boyfriend just took them and he didn't realize what he was doing. So in the past, if I was stranded, without a car, and I had to be somewhere, and people were expecting me, I would have just flipped out. It would have been this huge thing. And all I did tonight, I just my pulse didn't even increase. I called somebody, asked for a ride, and then I got there. So that's a really boring example of how my life is different. But I guess I grew up here. I'm a San Francisco native, and I just moved back from New York, and I did for a long time. I got sober in New York, but I did kind of my most dramatic, Requiem for a Dream drinking and using here in the Bay Area, and for a long time I was. I don't know if anybody who's new has the feeling. I felt for a long time, I was like, oh God, I've ruined things, I thought I ruined San Francisco, which I love so much because I've done so many terrible things there, and I could never go back to that place. And I remember hearing that there's that part in the Big Book where it talks about how the alcoholic is like a tornado, and we destroy everything, and there's this one phrase that always sticks in my mind, sweet relationships are dead, and I just looked back at my life and I just saw this waste of sweet relationships that I just put in the ground. And but what I found is all of that wreckage of my past, which was significant and which is some of it is irreparable. A lot of my life has been restored in a way that I never could have expected. So for example, my father, who I was fairly estranged from when I came into AA, who I hated, I thought he was a terrible asshole, we went sometimes for 6 months or a year not speaking to each other. Slowly over time in AA, over the course of my first few years, I made amends to him, and today, I talk to him all the time, and especially now that I'm living here because he lives in Jack London Square, I see him all the time, and I have this wonderful relationship with my father, right? And all these little examples of friendships of people who couldn't see me anymore. I have friends since I was 5 years old who still live here, people who, when I was drinking and using, I couldn't even be around them because, they weren't interested in just seeking any kind of oblivion they could get. So I kind of shut out all these people from my life. And what I guess this is so all over the place, but I guess the thing that's most amazing is that I'm fairly capable of leading a orderly, non-destructive, nice life, and when I was new, I couldn't even imagine, because when I drank, and I used to think I had like a really rough upbringing. And sometimes when I'm like in a lot of self-pity, I'm like, oh yeah, it was so hard for you. You know, and I've had periods in AA, because I did have some specifically sort of extreme and strange circumstances. I've had times in AA where I was like, nobody else has suffered specifically the way that I've suffered, and therefore I do not need to let go of this resentment and this anger, which has not particularly served me well. What was I going? Oh, hard upbringing. No. Oh, yeah, so I mean, it's not like it's not that everything's been roses since I got sober. Somebody said that at a meeting I went to recently. But, like, I'm able to live in a way, when I was drinking. So when I was drinking, I was just like, you know, I was just like on the warpath. You know what I mean? It was like anything that I could get to just make myself feel like, to make myself feel like big. Like I was important, like I was worth something, you know, like I was really into attention, you know, whatever, it's funny, I went to a show, I saw Bob Dylan at the Paramount, and still this idea lurks in my mind where it's like, just enough people give me enough attention that somehow I'll be okay, you know. When I was drinking, I was doing everything I could to just serve these like needs that I had that I couldn't escape. Like I couldn't escape my fear, and I like the language they use in the 4-step where it talks about driven by 100 forms of fear, self-pity, self-delusion, you know, really feeling driven, like incapable of not living in this way where I created destruction all the time. Because I was like blind, but at the same time like grasping out all around me. And most of the time I don't feel that way today. And for example, I did something on Friday that I'm particularly ashamed of, which was I got in an argument with a guy over the phone over sales tax on a storage unit in New York. And it's an amount of like $17 a month, which to me, I have this thing that my sponsor's trying to work with me on where I have this idea that everybody's trying to take my fucking money, you know? And so I got in this like shouting match with a guy I don't know on the phone. And it's amazing because that's the kind of thing I would have done all the time in the past. You know, I was like constantly getting in fights with people because my attitude as I walk through the world, which when I'm not grounded now in sobriety, like I can have this attitude of like that thing, like everybody's trying to fuck me. You know what I mean? Like I gotta watch out because somebody's gonna take something from me. Or like I was reading something in the Times about a woman who was like a waitress and she just sold her first novel for 6 figures and I'm a writer and I was just like, oh God. You know, and I have this idea that like other people succeeding means I'm failing. That's another thing. But, so now I'm like thinking days later about how bad I feel about yelling at this man, you know? And I talked to my sponsor and I knew this is what she was going to say. She's like, well, you should just call him and apologize. You know? And like I have experience doing that because that's what AA taught me where like I bashfully like with my tail between my legs go and make amends to people who I'm like, but they're a fucking asshole, you know? And then incredible things have come out of that. I mean, it might not with this, you know, in the back of my mind I have this idea, I'm like, oh, maybe he'll like give me my money back, you know? That's neither here nor there. So I guess what I'm saying is like I have like tools and I've had people in my life who have like slowly over time showed me how to live in a way that's like appropriate and helpful, not just to people around me, but also ultimately to me, you know. I guess, I don't know, okay, I'm just gonna say one more thing, which is on an unrelated topic. I've realized recently that, so I've always been like, at least in my own mind, I've been like a pretty good AA, you know, like I've always sponsored, I've always done the work. I used to be like a real like, thumper, you know, and, so I've always kind of thought, I do AA so much harder than everybody else. Like I don't really need to worry about it, you know? But then recently it's come to my attention that like I don't really have a relationship with that power that AA talks about, that sometimes they use the word God, like some kind of God. that's supposed to solve my problem and, give me that defense against drinking that I didn't have before I came into AA and worked the steps. And I've realized recently that that relationship is not strong enough. And what I'm starting to see right now is that actually I need to, and I guess I'm just saying this because I haven't done it yet, so I just need to do it, which is I need to look outside, and they talk about that in, there's this, where they talk about, look where religious people are, right? I'm realizing that I need to do outside work to build my spiritual life, or else I'm gonna drink, in AA. And I guess what I'm realizing is, calling people and sponsoring, is essential for my life, but, there's also more that I need to do to be, expanding this spiritual life, or I'm, probably gonna drink at some point. So that's where I'm at right now. I'm really glad to be here, so thanks for letting me speak. And
it's all you. How's it going, everybody? I'm Colin, and I'm an alcoholic.
Hi.
Thank you, Francesca, for your lead. My fly's up. We're good. All right. Let's see. I'll tell you a little bit about what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. And I'll try not to bore you all to tears. Let's see. I'm an alcoholic. Yeah, I didn't. My upbringing was pretty low key. My folks were relatively normal. I grew up in upstate New Hampshire in a rural town. There was some redneck going on there, but my mom also worked at a private school, and she was the art director, so I had that as well. So she saved me. But looking back, it was just like a quintessential upbringing. Farmhouse adjacent to a small little dairy farm. Literally covered bridge with a swimming hole underneath it with this little waterfall, and shit you not, just everybody knew everybody, and it was pretty awesome place to grow up, until of course I hit the age when I wanted to do stuff and get out of town, and until I started getting uncomfortable basically. But yeah, my folks were educated, nice people. There was no abuse in my home or anything like that. There was not a lot of drinking in my home either. My dad, I think my mother nagged the drinking out of my dad early on. So he actually didn't drink until I was a junior in high school after they got divorced. But yeah, so that's where I don't know where my alcoholism came from. But I remember my mother giving me warnings, about my family and booze and how I needed to watch out, and I was probably already totally alcoholic by then, but I was yeah, I'm gonna watch out. All right, I'm gonna look out for the next opportunity to get fucked up. Let's see. My first drink was after school with my buddy Ben, good friend Ben, still friends to this day. We raided his folks' liquor cabinet, and I think it was triple sec was what we drank. It was the first and last time I drank it, and it was no reason, but I remember it tasted very fruity. Am I talking about the right thing? Okay. And it was fun. It was exciting, We got buzzed, and nobody barfed, and nobody peed their pants, and we didn't get in trouble, and I don't remember consciously making the decision that was going to be my priority going forward. But if I look at my actions, I certainly subconsciously made that decision because that's what I looked to do from that point forward. It wasn't terribly easy in a small town, but we found ways, and it was very exciting. I think. Yeah, and I don't know, smoking cigarettes was part of that too. That was kind of was a fun, mischievous thing to do. And I remember in 8th grade, I was probably 13 at the time, 12 or 13. And in 8th grade, I decided to have this big party in our barn at that farmhouse. It was a really rad farmhouse with a huge barn with 3 tiers, hay barn. So I had this party, had my drum set out there, the lights were all set up, and some folks the whole class came over because they had nothing better to do. So they all came over, and some of the girls brought booze. And I didn't drink any that night, but some of these girls got fucked up. And it was just that, like, hosting that party and being, like, around that was enough for me. It was just, like, that culture, and that it was just, it was really exciting, you know. We're smoking butts in the hay room practically, and it was like a fire waiting to happen. It didn't happen, thankfully. And we didn't get in trouble that night, but we couldn't keep our mouths shut, so we got in trouble like 3 days later. And I remember my folks were split up by this time, and my mom came over, and they were sitting at the kitchen table. Oh, this is sort of the bravado of me. So a woman had overheard some kids talking about the party, and she threatened to, this was a mother of another person at school, and she threatened to tell my parents, or that word got back to me somehow. And I think, I remember being on the phone with her before my folks knew about it and basically telling her to fuck off. Mind your own business or something. And of course, she calls my mom after that, And then my mom comes over to my dad's place, and they're both sitting at the kitchen table. And they say, all right, get on the phone, call your friends, and just give them the warning. So I had to call all my friends that were at the party and say, yo, in about 15 minutes, your folks are getting a call from my folks. So you might want to tell your folks what happened, So that was totally humiliating, and I was totally, it was just like, it was horrible, and I would have done it 1,000 times over, The price to play, to have that feeling of hosting that, was, well worth it. Yeah. Let's see. I went to high school. So this is a recipe for disaster. My mom was the art director at this private school. It was about 300 kids. Before that was K through 8, 300 kids in this teeny town. And then I went to this private school where my mom worked. And for an alcoholic, this is a bad idea to go to a school where your mom works, especially a private school. Alcohol was just sort of taking over my identity by this point. I was, smoking weed and eating acid by that point, by the time I was a freshman. It was just like, it became my identity, I started wearing head necklaces and shit like that. And all those, like, scholastics and sports, we were supposed to play 3 sports, 2 of the 3 seasons at the school. It was like a requirement. By senior year, my buddies and I were, making shit up. We're like, we got to convince someone to sponsor a fishing team with, 4 members. That's sort of the slot. It was, organized sports, and then, and then I was JV outfield, with an afro, losing the ball and drinking before practice. And then senior year is, fishing team, where we drive around town smoking cigarettes and, But the illustration is that, slowly but surely, I just started giving up these things that probably should have been important, school and sports and true friendships. I just started messing around with folks that were doing the same thing that I was doing. And let's see, I got in some bumps and scrapes there, enough where they eventually kicked me out. That's where going to the same school that your mom works at doesn't work out. I got busted. I had the sort of best of both worlds. I had a car, and I lived with my mom, who was the head of a dormitory. So I had sort of day student privileges, but I was on campus. That's also a recipe for disaster. Anyway, I got arrested in Lebanon, New Hampshire, with I don't know what made me. So New Hampshire is it's pretty homogenous, right? So I had these 2 underage Asian kids trying to buy liquor from a store with Texas IDs. It's like, yeah, right, dude. Yeah, you're just wandering in from, 89, driving through town, getting 7 cases of beer, just for the fun of it, I don't know why I thought that was a good idea, but anyway, we got arrested, and then because I had boarding students in my car, that was sort of a big deal too, and the school kicked me out. They they probably had their hands tied. My mom was working there, and they couldn't show me special treatment. So, plus it was kind of a big no to do that. So I got kicked out. Went to live with my father up in Plattsburgh, New York. Has anybody ever been to Plattsburgh, New York?
Yeah. Right.
So, got drunk there a lot. I'm sorry. Yeah, and I just fell in with the same group of kids up there. I met my friends in the back of the chemistry class, folks that were not paying attention. And I just made, that was an easy shoo-in to make friends, people that drank and used like I did. So try to fast forward a tad bit because this is probably a little dull. Yeah, I ended up sort of I tried to save face and went back to the private school for my senior year. I just felt like shit because, my mom was a good person and she was devastated that I had gotten kicked out. And I felt like a bad person. So I did everything that I could to get back in and basically groveled before the headmaster and asked them to take me back. And, they did. So I did my senior year there. Oh, thankfully I didn't get kicked out again. I didn't stop screwing around. But, there were some close scrapes, arrested for stealing, and I talked my way out of that one. It was please, my mom wasn't home, so they were calling my mom, and I'm like, I will have her call you as soon as I get home. I swear to God, here's my information. If she doesn't call, within the next couple of days, I will, you can call her, and I'm totally busted. I just did not want to get arrested again. The store manager basically bought my line and had my sister call the next day. I had a 4-year-old older sister. Yeah, so there's that. I could have gotten kicked out of school for that. I got pulled over half drunk with boarding students in the car and booze in the car after drinking in Hanover, New Hampshire with a fake ID. My friend at the school was churning these things out. He bought a laminator and a printer and all this shit on a credit card, and he'd return it these are smart folks. Anyway, so he's churning these things out, and it's got all of Steven Lieberman's information on it, just my picture, and the date was changed. Poor Steve Lieberman, he was another kid at the school. And I didn't even know that I had given the cop that ID until he came back and he's like, who's Bruce Baird on my insurance? Because my dad was on my insurance. And I'm like, why is he asking that question? I'm like, fuck, I gave him the Steven Lieberman ID, Anyway, got out of that one, thankfully. I don't know how he didn't catch that, but anyway, went to college. I went to the University of New Hampshire because it was a party school. I remember reading in a book, it was about a way to decide where to go to college, and it had all this useful information in the middle, and then on the margins it said what's hot and what's not, and that's kind of how I made my decision. And that same friend Ben and we did go look at colleges, which basically is a euphemism for smoking mushrooms and drinking at other colleges in Western New York. But I went to UNH, and because it was a party school, and I wanted to just party. Let's see, went there. I made my friends the same way that I always made my friends, and which was through drinking. And I'm not illustrating this terribly well, but basically the point is that at the beginning of my drink, it was a hoot. I met a lot of great people, and it was a lot of fun. And this is the middle of my drinking, and it's kind of becoming shitty. And that's what college was like. It was yeah, my parents, no more parents, no more, I don't have to answer to anybody. And it was bong hits every morning and a 12-pack of Natty Light every night. It seemed like fun. I thought it was fun. And there were fun parts, for sure. I met some great people there too. But in general, it was just becoming kind of a slog. And, nothing really of note happened that freshman year. I don't think. Not that I can recall. Yeah, I'm sure stuff happened. I was a mechanical engineering student, which is also a recipe for a disaster for an alcoholic like me. By sophomore year, I was trading mushrooms for computer programs to hand in as my assignments, and the writing's kind of on the wall when you're doing that kind of stuff. It's like, all right, you can't handle the work. Has anybody ever taken a differential equation course? Probably. It's hard when you're drinking like fucking crazy. Anyway, I was about to fail out sophomore year, so it just made sense to join a fraternity. It just makes sense. Join a party frat, and it was like it was kind of a hippie frat, so I think they were struggling for membership or something, so they like accepted me and all the people on my floor like in one foul swoop, and we all moved in sophomore year. So this was going to be like awesome, it was going to be great. Sophomore year, moved in. We weren't technically supposed to be moved in yet because they were installing some safety sprinkler system or something, but we moved in anyway. And this, it was supposed to be a great year, and then of course it was devastated by the fact that one of my friends fell off the roof and died as a result of getting drunk on the roof, which happens when you do that. So that was, a really challenging thing for me. I had sort of, up to that point, I faced kind of a lot of instances of death, which was sad, I had one of my best friends got hit and killed by a car when I was 10, and then grandparents and stuff, and then this happened, and I had no emotional capabilities to grieve. I didn't know how to talk about it. I didn't know how to be upset about it, but I knew how to drink, and that was sort of it was permission for me. That was permission for me to just kind of officially say fuck you to the rest of the world and do what I wanted to do. So that was the beginning, or sort of, that was the acceleration of my circling the drain, really. And I just drank like crazy and used like crazy. It was a very tragic thing. I feel terrible, I have a son now, and he's very young, but I just feel for those parents. Fuck, that would be just so brutal. Very scary thing. Anyway, I drank like crazy, and then, to be honest, I don't know what the hell happened. I knew that I got in trouble. I had gotten in trouble with the university for some vandalism. I don't know what I was doing. I think it was vandalism, but I was in front of some sort of, panel of people that were deciding what was going to happen with me. It was that situation. And, they basically said I needed to go to see the school counselor or whatever, or at health services. So I went and saw that gal, and she was like, by this time I had like an afro. It's gone now, but when it gets long, it was curly, and it was just like a fro, hemp necklace, and I just looked the part. I used to listen to Fish and sorry. It can be good, all right? It can. I'm just going to say that. I'm going to say that. All you haters, jam bands are okay sometimes. So fuck you. My wife hates it. My wife it makes her skin crawl. And I don't really listen to it anymore, but I don't. Anyway, I just looked like a mess, and this lady was like, yeah, I'm going to refer you to a licensed alcohol and drug counselor. And so I went to go see this guy on my dad's dime. He paid for it, and I went for, I don't know, my brain was just totally fried. I went for probably 6 or 8 months, I don't know. And I'd forget to go, just be like, at this point I was getting stoned in the middle of the afternoon, watching Days of Our Lives. That's what was going on with me. It's real high class. And anyway, I went to go see this guy, and I remember he had 25 years clean. He showed me his medallion, and I was kind of I don't know what that meant. I was just like, whatever, dude. I don't know. I cannot compute. My little 10-watt brain was just like. I was like, it was intriguing. That was a little intriguing. And the gift that he gave to me was he talked about the craving, and he differentiated that from normal drinkers. And he said that alcoholics, when they take booze into their body, they have difficulty moderating or stopping. And you should go to AA. You should check out AA. You could say every week he'd give me another meeting list, and I'd be like, okay, yeah, sure. And he would humor me, you know. I'd like want him to. I wanted my car to be less shitty, and my girlfriend to like have sex with me more, and like be different. And I wanted my friends to be different, and I just wanted to be happier. I just wanted to be happy. You know, I felt like such a victim. And he'd humor me and like talk to me about that, and then he'd be like, "Yeah, you should go to AA." And finally, I broke down and went to AA. I'm not sure where in that span of time it was, but yeah, I remember it was a noontime meeting, and it was in health services on campus, and there was this quad, and it was just like treadmill, just like, oh my God, everybody knew where I was going. I felt like I had just lost at life. I felt like everybody knew that Colin was a total loser, and there's traffic driving by, and I'm just like sweating bullets, and I didn't want to go in, and and I went in, you know, and it was like 4 people. And I was surprised to find that there were women there and there were younger people there, because I had this image in my head about what it was. And I was intrigued then too. Like that's kind of it. I didn't hear any zingers. Nobody saved my life that night. Well, I mean, I guess in a way, yeah. But there was no like aha moments. But I left and I came back. Again, the last 6 months of my drinking, the first 6 months of my sobriety are a tad bit of a blur, but I did keep coming back. I think there was a summer in between that, and I remember I was trying not to drink. For an alcoholic, trying not to drink without some suitable replacement for alcohol is like torture, as some of you probably are familiar with. It just sucks, you know. It's hard to live life sober without booze, for me. Anyway, I remember my sobriety started getting momentum when I started going to some different meetings, some nighttime meetings. And I will make a point to talk about Mike. Mike was this big bodybuilder dude, and he was like into sports and like not like me. And he was at those noontime meetings when I was first sort of like dabbling in it. And I feel really super grateful that he was just nice to me. Excuse me. The dude was just like nice. And he wasn't shoving any shit down my throat. And he'd just check in with me. He's like, "How's it going, man? After a meeting." Sorry. So, that shit is important. Excuse me. Jesus. That was intense. Yeah. Thank you. Great. All right. It's very important. He was really nice. And he was just checking in, you know, super nice about it. And he was encouraging, and that was it, you know. And I always remember that. So, and that was kind of the simplicity of that interaction with another AA that was like trying to open the door for me and be welcoming. So, anyway, my meeting attendance started gaining momentum, and it was terribly uncomfortable for new people to. I mean, you guys know, you were all new at one point. It's fucking uncomfortable, you know. I would come in late, and then I would kind of hang around afterwards, and I would don't talk to me, but please, for the love of God, talk to me. You know, that was kind of like how I felt. I'm dying to go to coffee, but I just don't want to talk to you. It's just a hard place to be. And so I do encourage people, newcomers, that if you're feeling like you're farting around outside of a meeting and no one's asking you to go to coffee, just go to coffee. I think that find a group and go to coffee. Just tag along. I think that's important too. got a couple minutes left, so I'm going to try to speed this up. But I found my first sponsor in AA in that Tuesday night meeting. After I'd gone for several weeks, and I got him for all the wrong reasons. He was in a band and looked like he was funny. But it turned out that I lucked out because he had experience with steps, and he knew how to lead a person through the big book, and he was serious about sobriety. So he got me reading right away, and he told me to hit my knees, and I was to pray. And I remember when he made that suggestion, because he immediately sort of resented it and said, "Oh, chill out, man," because I was like, "Wait, what?" Like, hit my knees? What are you talking about? You know? Because I was, I don't know where I picked this up, but I was like pretty anti-religious and cagey about that kind of stuff. I'm not sure why, but anyway, he saw the look on my face, and he's like, "All right, just try it. Just you don't have to pray to anything, serious. Just like pray to whatever, your fucking ceiling or your doorknob, but just do the action, really." Anyway, I remember doing that. That was terribly uncomfortable too. Everything in AA, when you first do it, is terribly uncomfortable. If it's, I don't know, maybe not, but it was for me. It was very hard to do this stuff. Felt very weird. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, and he got me reading the big book, I remember being really interested in the doctor's opinion when it talks about the craving. I could really relate with that kind of stuff. And they really smashed out like the last flicker of hope that like maybe I wasn't an alcoholic. I was 20 at the time, and I was fucking miserable. I would just like was dreaming. I would fantasize about checking out. Like, how can I check out in the most heroic, sad way so you all would be upset that I was gone? It's like all that kind of self-pity. Let me tell you, nobody comes into AA tap dancing, and neither did I. It was a shitty end, But they, of course, we were hopeful, and they were able to stamp out that last flicker that, maybe it was just a fucking phase, It's not a fucking phase, let me tell you that. Not for me, anyway. Anyway, got me going in the book. And we got busy, like, working the steps out of the big book, Took a third step and started writing a fourth step. I did a really involved fourth step, which I think was awesome for me. It took me a while, and it took, like, a lot of discipline. But it just, like, totally spun my head around about, like, how I had been making a hard path for myself, I was full of rage and fear. And I didn't know that. I didn't know. I just thought like the world was like trying to take all my money or like trying to fuck me somehow. And I was just on fire with anger and resentment. So the fourth step really like blew my socks off in that way. And it helped me develop a relationship with my higher power by writing that fourth step with God's help, that helped me with that discipline. Yeah, and I met the most I had a lot of fun in early sobriety too. I really encourage like new people to find your people that are serious about sobriety, and then go have some fun too. Don't fuck around with like goofing off and not doing steps, but get a sponsor, do the steps, and then have some fun. Because I think that's really important. Fun and friends in AA. There's a lot of wonderful, awesome, totally genius, interesting people in this room. All walks of life. It's so trippy that we all like hang out or get together. It's really cool. So I encourage you to find your people and have fun. Yeah, and then it's been a long time since all that stuff happened. I got sober when I was 20. I'm only 24 now. That was in 97, November 20th of 97. So I'm coming up on 17 years, which is it's weird because time goes by when you get older, and stuff happens. But it's also, it was pointed out to me through one of my sponsees' experiences recently, who struggled and sort of got tripped up on some cavalier attitude around medication, and he got to this, oh shit, did I relapse moment, and I was like, and talking to him, I was just, he was really hung up on whether he had, and that's a gray area, but I was just thinking, like, it doesn't fucking matter. Like, what matters is what am I doing today? Like, right now, how am I doing today? Am I sober today? What am I doing today? And I mean, I like saying that I almost have 17 years, but but really, it doesn't matter, you know. What matters is how I feel, and am I sober today, you know. And sometimes I don't feel great, you know. I have been resting on my laurels for a little while, and I think that's easy to do when, you know, sobriety is habitual, and, you know, I'm super comfy, and I got a ton of shit that I wanted, you know, and all the exterior stuff looks really awesome. But it's ridiculous, like how many, I guess I just have to learn those lessons, you know. It's like you can see it coming, you're like, oh, I'm seeing all these people learn this lesson, and they're talking about it, and then here I am learning that lesson. You know, and I've learned this one over and over, that when I slack and I feel less inspired, and I think back to those early days, and I look at the people with like 1-2 years in AA that are just like, yeah, fuck, it's a Friday, and I'm like, man, I want what that dude has, you know. Anyway, my challenge as of late is to find the willingness to recommit to really expanding my spiritual life, like we were talking about, and because I've been doing a great job of that lately. But yeah, AA saved my life. I'm totally grateful. I am not owned by fear and resentment anymore. I had a resentment, a pretty actually strong one recently this past week. And you know, those are of note because I never have them. I swear to fucking God. I was staring at the ceiling and thinking about this person, and that shit does not happen to me. I do not stay awake at night. That's partly because I have 2 kids and they run me ragged, but it's also because AA has allowed me a life that is free from fear and resentment, and thank God, because no wonder I drank. If I felt like this all the time, I drank totally. And I didn't get sober to like be angry. AA saved my life. Yeah. So all you new people and a lot of transplants, welcome. I'm not from here either, and it was an adjustment to come here and sort of get used to AA here and find my people here, sort of start over. That was a pain in the ass. But there are wonderful people here. There are wonderful meetings here, and this is a great part of the country to be sober in. Anyway, I think that's it. Thanks.
Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Sobercast is ad-free, and we'd like your help in order to keep it that way. So if you'd like to help us be self-supporting by pledging $1 or $2 a month, visit Sobercast.com and look for the donate links. Thank you very much.